The Golden State Warriors on a 3-game slide. Can a trade change their fortunes? I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel. We did pass 10,000 subscribers. Thank you to all of you out there. So cool. We are extremely, extremely happy with the growth of this channel and the amount of people that have been watching and telling us so many positive things about the content that we've been putting out. So again, thank you to all of you out there. If you've not done so yet, make sure that you turn on notifications as well so you get notified when we put out a new video. Joining me is Donnie Freeman. Donnie, let's talk some Golden State Warriors here. 3-game losing streak. What is going on in Golden State?
Yeah, definitely been some up and down play over the last few games here. It's not so bad because they built themselves such a massive cushion to start the season with the amazing play that they had. But they had a game against OKC where I believe Steph didn't play there. Just a couple of other things happening. So on a little bit of a slide, but we're going to talk about that today. So again, make sure you guys subscribe. About 80% of the viewers aren't subscribed. So like Trev said, we are trying to keep this train going and make sure that you guys do stick around for it.
All right, so right now, the Warriors have actually dipped to third in the Western Conference. They've been hanging on to that 2 spot in the Western Conference for much of the season, but now they've dropped to third. The Houston Rockets, look at the Rockets. They are taking off. The Golden State Warriors sitting in the 3 seed now, still playing well over the course of the season, but if you go take a look, just to pull a little bit of a bigger sample size, you look at the last 5 games. Take a peek at the last 5 games. And again, they've had injuries, they've had illnesses, they've had all kinds of things. So have a lot of teams around the NBA. So during this 3-game slide, you take a look at their offensive rating, pretty low, ranking 23rd in the NBA. That's simply not good enough. But again, they've had guys missing due to injuries. Steph Curry dealing with a knee issue right now, did miss last game. But their defense has really been where they've had consistency, where they've been really good over the course of the season. And they've been very, very impressive on that end of the floor. Last 3 games, why have they dropped 3 in a row? Well, their defensive rating during that stretch has been 20th in the NBA. So a bit of a slide here in terms of their defense, what has been their bread and butter over the course of the season. And Donnie, I still think this is a blip on the radar. The Warriors on the season 5th in the NBA in defensive rating. I think this will bounce back up. But their upcoming schedule is absolutely brutal. It's got to be one of the worst in the NBA by far. And I think that the trade wheels are going to be turning here in Golden State. Donnie, I'm going to put the schedule up here. I can't imagine much of a worse schedule than what the Golden State Warriors have for the month of December.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a caveat because the in-season games are in the middle there. They don't actually have 11 days off. Yeah,
right.
The NBA Cup. They don't actually have 11 days off. They're going to fill that in with some teams. But, I mean, those are probably also going to be tough teams because the easier teams like the Wizards, they've either already played or they've got them on the schedule for later in the year. They see Philly right there, which shouldn't be an easy game, but is apparently. So, yeah. But this
who knows what Philly's going to look like by that point?
Yeah,
Philly might be full tank mode by January 2nd there.
Yeah,
who knows?
For real. At that point, if they're still losing, they should be. But Phoenix, they've just got KD back. They're going to come out crazy tonight, actually.
Yeah.
Denver, that's a game that's going to be really tough. Houston, as we saw, top of the standings, they're going to be a tough game. Couple games against Minnesota. They're kind of dealing with some stuff, but they've still got Ant over there. Could be a tough game, especially if you don't have Steph for any of these games as well. Memphis, they play Minnesota 3 times there in a couple of weeks. Kind of crazy. Indiana, Lakers, I mean, maybe you could steal one or both of those games. But yeah, just a crazy stretch here.
Christmas Day against the Lakers and then against the Clippers. Phoenix again. Cleveland's been great in the Eastern Conference, unless they're playing the Atlanta Hawks, apparently. Like, why is that a thing? I don't know. The Hawks possess the secret to beating the Cavs somehow, some way. But this is a very, very difficult. I mean, these are almost all playoff teams, really, or at least playoff caliber teams, even if the standings may be a little bit wonky right now. These are all teams that you would project to be playoff quality all month. There's no let up. There's no, hey, here's the Wizards on the schedule, or here's Portland or something like. No, this is all difficult teams that you have to play against. And I think one of the things that's a challenge for the Warriors right now is that they are missing De'Anthony Melton. I thought he was a great signing for them over the summer. Unfortunately, he is done for the year, dealing with an ACL injury. So he's now out. But Donnie, that opens up some possibilities because De'Anthony Melton is also an expiring contract. And we know the Warriors are going to be very, very aggressive on the trade front. They were in the mix for Paul George. They were in the mix for Lauri Markkanen. Obviously, they didn't land either one of those guys, but they are one of my teams to watch heading into the trade deadline. And now, with the downside being that De'Anthony Melton is not on the floor, but his contract will still be in play as an expiring deal, a name got thrown out there. And I don't know exactly how I feel about it. I think it would be a good fit. Making the math work is a little tough, but this is from Jake Fisher. Said, I'm not like reporting that Golden State has called Toronto, but the Warriors love De'Anthony Melton for the exact type of things that Bruce Brown, when he's healthy, does. Is he someone that now becomes on their radar because Melton is hurt? That's a fit. What do you think about that idea? About the Warriors sort of bolstering their lineup, making up for losing De'Anthony Melton by going and adding Bruce Brown from Toronto?
Oh, that's a tricky one. Brown hasn't played yet at all this season. And, I think with Melton, you get more ball handling, sure. 3-point shooting in droves. He's way better at that on higher volume. But I do think that you get different things by going out and getting Bruce Brown. You get more defense. You get more, he's kind of a weird player for them because I almost feel like a lot of his strengths they've already got on this team with a guy like Gary Payton, for example. I think that some of the things that Bruce is great at, and also a similar size, they've already got a guy on the roster that does some of the same things. Mm-hmm. But I think that you can double down on that skill set and get more, out of that salary slot if you wanted to do it. My only worry is that I'm not so sure that, I think that the shooting piece kind of matters. It doesn't matter a ton because you've got the greatest shooter on your team. But I do think that he's going to have to be able to knock down open shots. Otherwise, teams will just play off him. And then you can get in a situation where teams are playing off a few of these guys, depending on the situation. And also on a side note related to this, typically a guy that teams will play off of was Draymond, but apparently he's turned into a 40% 3-point shooter over the last couple of years.
There you go.
Going back to earlier in his career where he actually, was able to shoot a bit there. So I don't really know. He's a bit of a weird fit to me. I don't know if I love it, but if they needed to get somebody like that, then maybe they could do it.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce Brown, he can just be a secondary creator for you. You're right on the 3-point shooting. It's not quite where you'd want it to be. I think Bruce Brown, he was great when he was with Denver, but he fit exactly what they needed. He also happened to shoot 36% from three that season, has not done that since.
In Brooklyn too.
Yeah, and so he's really good for them. He's been good. In fact, they even ran him as like a super small ball 5. I remember in Brooklyn. That was crazy when they were doing that stuff. But but this is a guy that I think can fit into a lot of places. No, he doesn't shoot the 3 that well, but maybe his number does bump back up if he's playing alongside Steph. He's getting a bunch of wide open looks. Maybe that's something they could look forward to there. But I don't think this is a terrible target. I think you probably have to get it into a 3-team trade because trying to make the math work on a 1-to-1 trade is kind of difficult if we're trying to, even if the Warriors are stacking up a couple salaries, it still gets a little tricky trying to get to Bruce Brown money. But here's my bigger thing, Donnie, is I think if the goal is to replace De'Anthony Melton, Bruce Brown is a fine target. I think he can, in effect, replace what De'Anthony Melton is giving you. But think about the names we've heard the Warriors connected to. We've heard Markkanen. We've heard Paul George. I don't know that just replacing De'Anthony Melton is what the Warriors ideally want to do. I think they want to go big game hunting. They want to add a piece that's going to really put them over the top. I think now I would say their season has been better than maybe even they expected coming into the season. And maybe that gives them a little bit of incentive to say, you know what, we've got something really good right here. We don't need to swing for the fences. We just need to hit a double, put a runner in scoring position. And we've got a team that can drive them home now. Whereas maybe they didn't think that heading into the season. And that was why they went after a Paul George, why they went after Lauri Markkanen. But the Warriors, I think it's in their DNA to make the big swing here if it's available. So I don't know when De'Anthony Melton becomes trade eligible here on December 15th. I don't know if moving him for Bruce Brown is the move that they're going to make. It wouldn't shock me if they wind up being the team that's in the mix for a bigger name, a bigger time player. Like, I don't know, Jimmy Butler is rumored to not really be on the market, and we'll see when push comes to shove there. Brandon Ingram, maybe he'd be an interesting, like these guys are a different tier, I think, than Bruce Brown is, even though Bruce Brown can be a very good role player. So I'm really curious to see, do the Warriors, do they use De'Anthony Melton to replace De'Anthony Melton's skill set? Or do they use De'Anthony Melton to go get a piece that they think is going to take them to the next level and put them right there in that upper echelon in the Western Conference?
Yeah, that's definitely a interesting discussion to have there. I do think that, De'Anthony would have been perfect for this team if he was able to be healthy. He only played a handful of games this year, but he wasn't able. And I really do like his skill set as more of like a 3-and-D style ball creator. That's pretty great. I think he could fit on a lot of teams, and he would have been nice for this team. I think with the Warriors, they're in a position where I think you mentioned it a second ago. They've probably performed better than even they expected to perform up to this point in the season. But I do think that maybe there's an opportunity for them to kind of gauge how good this team truly is over this next month with that schedule that we saw. And there may be, they look back on it, around New Year's and are like, okay, here's how we did during that month. And, we went whatever and whatever with the record for that month. And, this is what we think we need, and we're going to go out and get it. But I also think, and this is a similar discussion to the Lakers, I also think there's a possibility that if you start sliding here, the front office could be like, no thanks, right? So I think that's kind of weird. I think the Warriors have more things to play with. They've got more movable size contracts than a lot of teams do, and they've got a younger asset that they still haven't extended that could be on the block as well if they wanted to dangle that out there in Kuminga. And I think that they've got great production as a team from a lot of their guys, maybe more than they would expect. Buddy Hield putting up about 16 for them. Wiggins has been one of their best players. He's having a bounce back year after having a bad year and a half or so. So it's just kind of weird because, Steph hasn't truly fully came to the party like in a way that you would expect him to. So they can obviously get better as a team. But I do think that they could be in a situation like that. And in terms of like who the name is, I think they are probably more predisposed to trying to find a bigger name player. I just don't know if they should try to go out and get somebody that's a little bit older, like a Jimmy Butler. It's kind of weird. But I mean, if they do that, assuming they don't have to give up too many assets, that's them doubling down on the Steph Draymond core and going from there, because those two are 36 and 34 respectively. Next oldest player on the roster is, Peyton at 32. I think that they would be doubling down on that and going all in. And I mean, that's what Steph wants. That's probably what they should do for a player like that. Of course, it's been there his entire career. Why not? I have concerns about Jimmy, in terms of his health and availability. But if they do make a trade for somebody like that, I don't know that I would do a trade for like BI. I don't know if I would do that. Or even a Levine or a Grant or some of the other names out there. But I think Jimmy is the one. If you have to go out and you do one, I think Jimmy would be the one, because we do know what he turns into in the playoffs, and that could be huge for this team. So that's one of the things I would consider. And I also would like to pair him alongside a spacer like Steph. I think that would really make the game easy for Jimmy as well. So just a lot of options that they have here. And we'll see what they wind up doing, of course.
Well, let me ask you this. So on the schedule right now, and again, there are games going to be added. Right now, the Warriors are the top of their group in the NBA Cup. And who knows? They could win the NBA Cup. That could certainly happen. That's in the range of outcomes here. So there will be games added. But right now, in the month of December, well, including the final day of November as well, there's 12 games currently on the schedule. And again, you can see the opponents on the screen here. In those 12 games, what do you think they need to do if they want to stay in the top tier in the Western Conference?
I think they can go no less than 500 throughout the month if they want to stay.
66?
Yeah, top. And there probably will be like 3 games added in here.
Yeah.
2 games, or maybe if they make it all the way, they'll play that extra game that doesn't count for some reason.
Which definitely should.
Yeah, it's so stupid, especially when it matters at the end for the standings. Like, for example, the Lakers technically had one more win than they should have, and it would have bumped them up like a place in the standings. Regardless, yeah. So I think they have to at least go 500. But if they really want to make a statement, and I think this is possible, I think it can go 2 above 500 and kind of go from there. I think that would be pretty good.
Yeah. I think if they go 500 during this stretch, people will be shouting from the mountaintops that they're doomed and all that. No, look at their schedule. If they go 500 through this schedule, okay, they do better than that, and that's really impressive. You're going to say, okay, hey, they've got something here. And again, wouldn't shock me if they wind up being the team that makes a big move here ahead of the February 6th trade deadline. But everybody, let us know in the comment section. What do you think? The Golden State Warriors on a 3-game slide, and a 3-game slide against teams maybe you wouldn't expect them to lose against. San Antonio, Brooklyn. OKC is a different story, but San Antonio, Brooklyn dropping those games, that hurts certainly for the Warriors. Again, they have been dealing with injuries. They've been dealing with all that. The most important thing, of course, Steph Curry, his knee has got to get right. And then I think we'll see this Warriors team really take off again. But tough schedule ahead in December, and already some potential trade rumors here for the Warriors. I think they're a team that's going to be right in the thick of things. So again, everybody, let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and go check out our latest video on Jeremy Grant and the insane asking price that the Portland Trailblazers have. Truly bizarre stuff. Go check that out right now.